to draw. I'll be there in a second. There we go. Doing some drawing. So right now I'm working on page 21. More like 21 of Blue Orchid. This is Blue Orchid chapter 4. So this is the 4th issue of my comic. Since last going live, I actually, that head's way too big. I actually have started to, I wrote, started writing, so this is chapter 4 of volume 1. My plan was to have 3 volumes and then go to and then maybe continue it. I haven't decided yet. It depends on if Blue Orchid survives and all that. Although spoilers, I'm probably not going to kill her off, but you never know. I might. I guess it doesn't. She can get killed off. It wouldn't end the orchid line. If you read some of chapter 2, actually all of the chapters sort of hint at this a little bit. Blue Orchid, it doesn't have to be the Blue Orchid. There can be other orchids. And so somebody could take over for her. So if she dies or retires or something like that, no orchid has ever retired in my comic, but there was 3 orchids before the Blue Orchid, and so technically you don't need an orchid to make this comic exist. So so I wrote in the last few days I finished writing my initial concept for Blue Orchid volume 2 and volume 3. So there'll be probably 4 chapters in each one of those. So there will be this comic will guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, I guess, has planned to go 12 issues. And you don't have to worry if you are a reader, or if you're not. Those are going to happen no matter what. There's no no Kickstarter to you have to get a Kickstarter going to there's no Kickstarter that will have to be done to make sure that all 12 issues are done. They are going to be done. That's pretty much, barring anything weird happening in my life, they're going to get done. I have every plan in the world to make them happen. So keep an eye out for those. So the other thing I'm going to talk about today is I am going to talk about I've been kind of tempted to do a game, a Blue Orchid game, and I had a chat today with a friend of mine. I do a podcast with another friend of mine called Geek Shop, and we had our friend Jeff was on it, and he does indie games. Check out there's links around, and I've got a playlist on my YouTube right now with the Geek Shop Geek Shop episodes, and you can go back there and see Jeff's episode. But he does indie games, and he's got a couple of card games he's designed. And so I had a chat with him today, and he sort of gave me some hints, some tips, tricks, that sort of thing towards designing a card game. So I am thinking about designing a Blue Orchid card game, which I think makes sense considering it's a comic book about monsters. It just kind of seems like a fun time to do like a perfect thing to do a card game. So that is what's in the plans. It'll be after I finish issue 4, so finish. And I'm at the really rough pencil stage at this point, so I'm far from finished it. But at some point I will. I'm thinking. I'm not will. I mean, I can tell you that Blue Orchid Chapter 4 is going. It will come out, and I can tell you that Volume 2 and Volume 3 of the Blue Orchid thing, which will be a grand total of 12 issues, will come out. Card game, I'm not 100%, but I think it seems like a really good idea. And I was thinking about taking a little break from drawing the comic after this volume, so after this issue. So it just seemed like the perfect exercise, because then I can continue to draw Blue Orchid, but not have the pressure of the comic book or the sort of style of the comic book. So if anybody out there plays card games, or if you're, if you're a card game designer, let me know, because I would love to hear from you and any tips, tricks, or good games that maybe like would be good to inspire my game off of. Because at this point, that's one of the things I need to do, which is super fun, is I need to play test. I want to learn more about making card games. So, I mean, I'm not some kind of super genius mathematician or anything. So I feel like my card game, I'm gonna take ideas, because I think designing a card game from total scratch seems really hard, and maybe not something I can probably do. But I feel like I play a lot of board games, and if you play a lot of board games, you start to notice patterns in a lot of the games, so that they all sort of follow the same. There's these design principles around games that sort of make them work. So I need to learn some of those design principles for card games, and then after that, sort of figure out which genre of card game I want to do, and build it. So if you have any ideas for card games, let me know. I'm just playing around with something here. I'll get back to drawing in a second. I know not too many people are watching this. I'm okay with that. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is I actually record myself inking these things in a time lapse. And I'm thinking about maybe when I do that, doing a live stream as well. I'm trying to see if that'll work. So this is kind of a test for that, but also kind of a neat way to run into people who are, watching this, and I'm just learning how to do stuff here. Hello, Teddy Taurus something, F70, if you're still there. So this is back to, card games. It's going to be something kind of interesting. We'll see if it works out. But so this is the page. So I'm doing something a little different on this page. This is a story where Blue Orchid's fighting a water monster, and she's spinning around it really quickly, and it's evaporating into a cloud. And so this is the part where it's evaporating the cloud. There's a background here, and I wasn't sure whether I should leave it bare, like just do a solid color, or whether I should do like a simple city skyline. The problem is so in this one, I need the same background, and then there's also two more panels in the next one that should have the same background. Most of the time when I draw cities, I love drawing buildings. I do all kinds of intricate building drawings quite often. Let me grab an old page here. All right, here's, oh no, that's not it. Is this better? Yeah, it's not too bad. So there's the top one here. It's got all kinds of buildings and stuff. I do them very sort of geometrical, but then when I ink them, I put a little more detail into them. But I do all kinds of different kinds of city backgrounds. But if I want to do the same one, like a lot of times I don't have the same ones. Some of the same buildings will kind of creep up because I just know I draw them all the time. But I don't really, if I've got to do the same thing, it's hard to draw the same thing over and over again, exactly the same. So what I'm doing, in this case, and maybe you'll call it cheating, but I won't, is I've got it's a very light pink square here, and it's the same size as each one of these. And what I'm gonna do is draw the city in here once, the entire city, and then in Photoshop, I'll scan them both in. I actually don't scan my stuff, I actually photograph it. I'll just Photoshop the background in, and I'll Photoshop into the next two panels as well. Is it lazy, or is it a time saver? I don't know, but whatever it is, it's what I'm doing, because that's what I want to do. I had a blue pencil here somewhere. My blue pencil is getting ridiculously small. It's a Blackwing blue pencil. It's my first, and probably my last Blackwing blue pencil. I don't mind Blackwing pencils, but they're very expensive. So I am just trying to get an idea of where I want to put the ground on this. It's about there. I think that should work on all of them. I don't have a light box. I want to get a light box, but they're just so cumbersome. And right now I'm in the middle of an overseas move, and so a lot of my stuff at this present moment is sitting in a port somewhere, awaiting paperwork. So when I do these city background, it's funny, I normally don't draw the whole city background. I normally just, when I do these sort of abstract, and this is gonna be, I'm not gonna get too detailed on this one. I'll get a little detailed because I can, but I generally, when I do these types of backgrounds, I do them really, I don't have to draw the whole background because I have something in front of it. It tends to be when I have when I wanna show a whole city most of the time, I get really detailed. So generally like the first panel of a lot of my books is a big complicated drawing of the city or something like that. And sometimes with, wow, nobody. Yeah, that's okay. Anybody else drawing comic books out there? Comic book land? Anybody else working on a creative project we want to talk about? I draw my comic book. It's a very cartoony style because I love that style. I love reading that style. Big influence, Sergio Aragonés is a huge influence on me. Not that his style is, I emulate his style by any stretch of the imagination, but I love reading his stuff. I read a lot of Sergio comic books. Anybody else reading anything interesting out there? Drop it in the comments. Is that what the kids say? Drop it in the comments. God, I'm an old man. looking for what the kids say. So what I do when I do my drawings is I tend to sort of rough them in blue. And I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine recently. We were talking about, maybe I could get opinions out there. Again, you can drop them in the comments or in the chat if you want. What do you think about using rulers? So often I hear people saying, using rulers is fine, but I don't do it. Like there's something wrong with it, which is weird. Because I think it's totally fine to use rulers. And people are like, that's cheating, but I don't think you can cheat in drawing. There really is no way of cheating in a drawing. If you produce, I mean, I even don't discount tracing to a degree. I think you can trace something if you can kind of make it your own. A few artists I know trace stuff, and they just totally make it their own. So I think that's acceptable. You just have to decide whether it's acceptable for you. I don't trace anything for Blue Orchid at all. I definitely get inspiration. Particularly as I'm drawing a city background, I get a lot of inspiration from pictures. I'm a photographer as well. And I've done it professionally, and I do it for fun too. And if you want to know my background, I am an artist by profession. It's what I do. The comic book is only a portion of the art that I do. I'm also into animation. I do like special effects work, stuff like that. And I generally tend to work freelance-ish. So I just sort of, people have occasional gig for me, and I'll go do it. I'll make something pretty for them. It could be anything from short videos to animation graphics for live events, illustrations. I do illustrations for people. The style that Blue Orchid is, if you go, there's a link in the description, is not totally like, my total draw. It's style that I enjoy, but I make it, it's a simplistic style. It's a purposefully simplistic style. A great man once told me, a great film director once told me, he was designing a cartoon series and he made it super simple. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous. This guy was an animation genius, one of the top animators in the world. And he was designing the show, and the design of the characters was just stupendously easy, like literally mostly just a sphere. And I sort of asked him about it. I'm like, I've seen your work. Like, I mean, you can draw anything you want. Why in the world would you just want to do a sphere? I was very young at this time too, so, naive. And he told me, he said, I want kids to be able to draw my cartoons. And this was a cartoon show for like preschool kids. He says, I want kids to be able to like just pick up a piece of paper and successfully draw this character without having to really, even if they aren't artists, just because they might enjoy drawing this character. And that kind of stuck with me. So when I designed Blue Orchid, the two things I wanted artistically for Blue Orchid is I wanted Blue Orchid to look like it was drawn. So I didn't want it to look like it was real. I didn't want it to look like it came out of a computer. I wanted it to look like it was something that somebody put pencil to paper down to draw. And that is one of the reasons why I do not scan the pages of Blue Orchid. I photograph them. And the reason why I photograph them is because I want the grain of the paper to show up on the in the book. So if you pick up a copy of Blue Orchid and you take a look at it, you will see that it very much looks like, you can actually see the grain of the paper that I drew it on. And occasionally, I don't know, I don't really see it, but maybe if you look closely, of course I see all the mistakes, and because that's what being an artist is all about, is looking at your mistakes. But if you look really closely at the paper, or at the drawing, occasionally you'll see some of my rough lines that didn't quite blow out, or I couldn't erase them well, or whatever. So yeah, the other thing too is, as you see, I'm using a little ruler to work on my background lines here. But when I do my final inking, I will use no rulers. And not because I think it's a cheat, because I'm using one now, but because I want the lines to not be totally straight. I do that for two reasons. I do that, one, because it makes the page feel more organic. There's something called a deadline. If you are drawing and you draw everything perfectly with a perfectly straight line, sort of like architectural drawings are perfect, because they have to be measured and copied out. But I do something with mine where I do not use, I use lots of brushes. I use like ink brush, and I also don't use any rulers, because I want my lines to kind of look alive. I think that's important. I want it to look rough around the edges, because the city, she often, the two sort of environments that Blue Orchid finds herself in is the city and the countryside. And in both cases, I want them to look a little rough around the edges. It's actually, this entire book takes place in Southeast Asia. My inspiration, several, I lived in Southeast Asia for a while. I don't right now. I live in Northern Africa right now. That's where I'm coming from. But the inspiration for Blue Orchid came while I was living in Southeast Asia. Again, I move around a lot. And it was, the original city was Cambodia, was Phnom Penh. That's where I was living when I came up with her. A friend of mine from there, sort of, we were chatting about comic book characters, and he's talking about how there was no comic book characters from there. And so I thought, he's right. And I didn't do it to appease him, but I did it because there's stories to tell that nobody's told. And so it's kind of neat. And there's sort of a culture there that you can be inspired from. And I knew I had a few years to live in Phnom Penh at the time, so I started coming up with the stories. And by the time I left, I was there for 3 years. I had collected a whole bunch of photos for reference, but I had also, and I had the story written, but I was moving temporarily back to Canada, where I'm from. But then I moved to Yangon, Myanmar, or Burma. Some people call it Burma. I lived there for a few years, and that's where I drew Blue Orchid. And while I was living in both Phnom Penh and Yangon, I would visit Bangkok and a few other places in Thailand, but mostly Bangkok in Thailand. So a lot of inspiration from there, a lot of buildings. You might even see some direct buildings from Bangkok, or features from buildings from Bangkok, just because it has like a really big city. So whenever I want the city to have a real city vibe. The countryside from Blue Orchid is probably more inspired off of just outside of Phnom Penh. There's some country areas I would visit every once in a while that I thought were really cool. And I have a future project where I actually incorporate Blue Orchid. Well, there's a story in this chapter 4, which actually uses background photographs instead of drawings, and all of those were taken in Bangkok. But then I'm also working on another project where you get to see Blue Orchid, sort of like single pictures of her fighting monsters. And those pictures are taken sort of all over. So even Japan, I have a few. I lived in Japan for a little while. So that was, so yeah, so. So anybody there who might be out there that's watching this, I got a question for you. Maybe I'll wait till there's a few more people. So, again, I record these because I actually end up putting them back on my on my social media and other forms later. That's a nice little building thing. And again, this is all going to be incorporated into, there's 3 panels here. This will be incorporated into the background of each one of them. I'll do that in Photoshop later. So I think page 21 is, all parts of it are done. So put that aside. So there's a few people here now. So do all of you read comic books? And do any of you make comic books? So let me know. Drop me a line. Oops, I got a little message on my phone I gotta get rid of. So yeah, if you make comic books or read comic books, let me know. I'm curious if anybody out there does that. So this is the start of a page. So I've ruled off. It's pretty hard to see on the screen. I don't know. I guess it depends. If you're watching this on your phone, you probably can't see anything. I've got it here on my tablet too. I actually watch this on my tablet at the same time. But I have some sort of dark blue lines that I use for my borders, and I've showed them this before in the past. But this is my sketchbook where I actually sort of work out my story, and then once I've worked out the whole story, I get some pages and I do the sort of box it out in full size and figure out sizes for my boxes. And then I do this part. This is this sort of sketching it up. So, and I start off with just a bit of blue. I use blue because you can, when you photograph it, when you turn it black and white, the blue kind of disappears a little bit. And it will, after I ink it, the blue kind of disappears. So I still have to erase it a little bit, but not much. But it's sort of a nice, just drawing the little face of my water monster in the cloud here. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do this yet. Just a light hinting of it. Not sure how I'm going to ink that. I'll figure that out later. I do that a lot. I don't think about how I'm going to do it. I just am confident that I'll manage it. So yeah, there's a few people on there now. Anybody here read comic books? Anybody here make comic books? Anybody here want to make comic books? If you want to make a comic book, I got some great advice for you. If you want to make a comic book, let me know, because I'm happy to share making comic book advice. So if that's what you're into, let me know. I will, I'll let you know. I will, for free, give you the best advice I ever got for making art that I've ever received. And it was a really simple piece of advice too, so. I always find it weird when you're doing these live streams, people sort of drop in and out. And it's funny, I always think that. I always think, wow, why don't people watch more? Like, what's going on? What they don't like me, this and that. And then I realize, like, when I'm on live things, I like flip. So I imagine a bunch of you are flipping, and a few of you are hanging on, which is really cool. I really appreciate that, but I will not take it personally if you disappear, and because you've got other stuff you want to look at. If you can, though, check out my website in the description. If you want to buy a copy of Blue Orchid, that would be amazing. This is the good stuff. So I'm going to actually draw a Blue Orchid. So this is again, I'll draw this sort of a couple of times. So this is the super light, very rough version of Blue Orchid that I'm going to draw now with my tiny little nub of a pencil. And then I'll do a more detailed one. And that's it. I draw it twice in pencil, really rough. And then I will draw it a little bit better. I love the scratchy sound. At this point, this is near the end of the chapter. This is page 22. So by this point, see, this is why I do roughs, because I don't like that drawing at all. It's an okay drawing. It's acceptable. But it's not, it doesn't quite sell the emotion that I want to. So I'll start that again. Yeah. The floor is covered in eraser bits. The reason why is because I got to give her a little more hump. So I think the head's fine there, but I've got to give her shoulder. There we go, that's a little better. When you bring the arm straight down, it's more effective. Much better. It's funny because one of the things they teach you when you're learning to draw character stuff, like comic books and animation in particular, is this whole sack of flour thing. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the sack of flour principle, but the idea is that you can draw a sack of flour in any emotion. It's an interesting thing to try and do. If you're a budding artist, it's something I recommend you learn. It seems really simple, but it's quite complicated when you break it down. And the idea is that literally just pick an emotion and you take a simple sack of flour and try and draw that sack of flour in that emotion. So the sack of flour is really simple. It's just this. Tail things on the ends. So there's your sack of flour. Turn this around. Simple sack of flour. So how do you do a sad sack of flour? Then you just draw it kind of hunched over a little, maybe even fold it over and droopy. Just a little sad sack of flour. Draw a happy sack of flour. Jumping for joy. All kinds of stuff like that. Useful. But that's how, in this stage of the drawing, I don't think about the details of the character, like her face or anything, or the emotion on her face. I think of the emotion in her body at this point, and I'll worry about the details on the face later. I think about anatomy here a little bit, and even though she's a simple character, she does have anatomy. The thing about anatomy, you have to, I find, I could be wrong, I think there's people who think very differently than I do on this subject, but I look at anatomy as like, there is right anatomy, there is sort of like human anatomy, or something that looks human, but when you're doing cartoons, you don't have to worry about human anatomy, you have to worry about your character's anatomy, and that's it. Already I've found something I don't like about this drawing, so let's fix that up. Speaking of anatomy, so in this particular drawing, she's wet, so I want her hair to sort of feel heavier. Normally it pops up a little bit, but she's all wet from fighting a big water monster. So that's, I mean, I can pop the eyes in real quick just to get an idea. Get her ears in, a little thing there. She's sad. She's not, one of the things I have trouble doing, so I write a script for my comics, but I don't remember it. I don't memorize it or anything. So then what happens is I'll be drawing my comics and I'll be like, should I draw that with their mouth open or closed? I'll have to go back in and check my script and decide if I could actually draw that sagging a little bit of weight on that. There we go. Now I'm going to do some background here. Again, no ruler. I don't think about the buildings that much at this point too, like what kind of windows they're gonna have. I will, in this particular case, because they're big enough, I will add detail to the windows, but I don't really think about it at this point. I just think there'll be a building here, there'll be a building here, and then I think I'll add a bit of sort of my not detailed buildings into the far background. That's the light blue stuff I do. This is actually quite dark. It's gonna be horrible to erase, but I'll deal with it. So now I just go in. I'm not one of those guys, I don't use actual pencil. Like I have a bunch of actual pencils that I doodle with and stuff, but I don't actually tend to draw that much with them. Maybe in the future I'll try drawing an issue. That's one thing I do too, is every issue of Blue Orchid, except for the first one, every issue has from issue 2 and 3 have a secondary story. If you get the Myanmar special, which is the one I had here a minute ago, which I don't know what I did with it. Yeah. So this one, this is what the work will end up looking like. But then I end up doing another story with a lot of my comics, I do a sub-story in the back. And often this is where I'll experiment with a new stylized idea. So issue 2 has a really fun blocky style of Blue Orchid, and issue 3 has, what does issue 3 have? I don't remember what issue 3 had. I know that issue 4 has one where the backgrounds are all photographs, and I don't remember what issue 3 had. I could run and go get it, but I don't think you guys want to. You guys probably don't care that much. Hey, Youngblood Domain. Sorry I missed you there. It's hard to keep up with you guys when you're commenting. I appreciate all the comments, and I apologize if I don't get there quick. Thanks, and the awesome job. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's hard because I'm drawing, so I'm looking at this. I'm actually trying to follow it on my tablet here, but so if I don't say hello, I apologize. It's not that I don't think you're awesome. I appreciate everybody who does, but I just don't see it immediately. I'm just going to stick my finger in the camera again real quick. Sorry about that. Oh, no, I guess it doesn't really show up. I am decidedly low tech when I do this. I just record this on my iPhone. Nothing more. So these don't have a background, these two panels, because earlier today, I drew this, and this is my, I'll use this background as a continuation on a bunch of the stuff. So That's why I'm not drawing a background here, because I want it to be the same background as the last 3 panels. So again, rather than suffering with trying to draw it 5 times, I just draw it once and then Photoshop it in. And I don't always do that. Most of the time I do backgrounds, I'll redraw, I don't reuse backgrounds unless it's specifically for a part of the story that has to remain in exactly the same place for all of the panels. And I find that if I try and draw them, it doesn't work, and I want the effect to really show that this is the same panel over and over, or this is in exactly the same place, like no movement at all. So that's the reason why I do that. So here's my ruler. The other day I was drawing and I couldn't find my ruler. That was disappointing. I have 2 rulers that I use. I've got I've got 3. I've got a gigantic ruler here too, gigantic metal ruler. Got tiny little, or like one half the size. And I got this tiny little plastic one that's transparent. And the transparency is important because then I can see sort of stuff that's going on behind it. But I use this one for just pretty much my borders, and that's it. And I'll use this one occasionally, the metal one. I'm going to use it right now, just for doing like lines of horizon and stuff like that. So I'll do it for that. But other than that, I don't really tend to use it too much. This little plastic one I use all the time. I actually go through these. I actually use them, and like to the point where I can't use them anymore. So I need to just, not erasing this, I'm just lightening it up even more. Because man, I drew it way too dark. With this, I will even redraw like my guidelines. I'm actually redrawing it at this point. I'm not just sort of like inking it type thing. I'm thinking about how the construction of the character was done for this particular drawing. And just in case I need to rethink anything, like I remembered that I wanted to make her hair look kind of droopy, so I can emphasize that a little bit more. And it's easier to do if you have your guidelines. So this one, she's supposed to look kind of sad, so let's give her some eyebrows and help that out a little. See, the blue ruff that I did here, I don't really think about her expression when I do the original ruff. It's more of the body language. But now that I'm adding in more detail, this is where I'll start to put like her eyebrows in and stuff. And again, as I said a little while ago, maybe you weren't here, that's fine. The reason why her design is very much designed to be simple, because I want her to be a character that maybe other people could draw. So if you're into drawing, if somebody buys my comic book and they're like, I want to draw Blue Orchid, I'm like, I encourage it. You should draw Blue Orchid. I like drawing Blue Orchid. In fact, it's one of my favorite things to draw. I didn't like drawing her all the time, but I now draw her so much that I can do it in my sleep. So her hair, I'm scraggling it up a little bit. And the reason why is because she just fought a water monster. So I want her hair to kind of be a little wet. So the other thing I'm doing on this live stream, maybe I'll start, I've got sort of several social media accounts you can follow. I've got one for me, I've got one for the company that I run that publishes Blue Orchid. I don't really advertise these, my live streams there, but I think I might start because starting to get confident with that these are okay. I don't mind doing this. Most of the time I do this, I have music playing. But if I play music now, I think YouTube will pull me off. So, how's everybody doing out there? Everybody having a good day? There's a couple people watching now. Are you having a good day? You having an okay time out there? Are you bored? Is that why you're on YouTube? What are you up to? Are you working? You had a job? I gotta say that you YouTube folks are quite friendly. I mean, you're not very chatty, but you're quite friendly. Any times you do chat, you tend to say nice things, which is really nice. I'm not looking for nice comments, but I appreciate them when I do get them. And of all the places I've been, YouTube seems to be a pretty nice gang of folk. So thank you for even just being here. That's pretty cool. But I don't mind if you're just silently watching me. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm not being sarcastic. I don't mind. Because when I go online, I don't say a word to anybody. I'm kind of shy. So you be shy too. I think that's awesome. I would never expect anybody to say anything. People popping in and out. I guess the only question I have is if you're even watching this later, like even if you're not watching this live, is anybody here procrastinating from doing something else and watching this instead? What are you doing? Or what are you not doing? What are you supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be doing this, so. So what you can't see is I'm actually doing some checking online for storefronts in Southeast Asia. Sometimes check my own photos, and sometimes I just go online and get some inspiration. Ooh, that's a good one. So I generally just box it in real quick. That gives me my real estate for my storefront. And then I'll figure out, this is actually a really good one I got here. Do you guys like it more when I'm quiet or when I'm chatty? Never know. I sat here for a while. I did this a while back, where I just sat silently and drew with my headphones on. A few people commented and everything. Nobody commented saying don't do that. You should be more chatty. But I felt like it was weird, not being present while somebody's dropping comments and stuff. So now I've decided that I'm going to just be more present and just talk to myself. See how that goes, get better and better. I don't know what I'm going to talk about all the time though. Every time I do this, I get nervous because I just sit there and I'm like, what do I talk to people about? I don't know. I eventually figure it out. Sometimes I talk about nothing. Sometimes I get ideas for things to talk about. Today I was talking about card games. Earlier today. And I'm thinking about designing a Blue Orchid, which is this comic book I'm working on, doing a card game for Blue Orchid. And I thought it'd be kind of a fun idea. But I have never designed a card game before. I like board games. I like playing games, so it's like it's not out of the realm of stuff I know. But I designed a little game once, this little puzzle game, but didn't do anything with it. Other than I have a prototype of it basically sitting in, well, it's nowhere right now because I'm in the middle of a move. But I do have a copy of the prototype somewhere. Kind of fun. I'm gonna have to wrap up soon because I think my cell phone battery is dying. Man, this streaming kills cell phones. I'll try and finish at least this building before I leave you guys. You guys are awesome. Even those who stay here for like 30 seconds, I appreciate it totally. But I do have my cell phone battery is dying. And where I am, which is I'm in Tunisia right now, it's actually getting kind of late. I want to go to bed. Maybe watch a little TV before I go to bed. I finished the page already today. So the thing I'm going to do, which I don't do with you guys watching, maybe I'll do it at the end of this one just for fun. I'll show you sort of almost everything. I can't show you everything I do because one of the things I do is take a picture of it with the cell phone that I'm recording this on. But add a little moss to this building here. A little brick pattern, randomly put in places, a few bricks. I heard stories about the legendary Todd McFarlane. He used to say that whenever he was doing this, what he'd call like just noodle work and doodles and stuff like that, that he used to call his friends, guys like Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee, and they would have these epic long phone calls where they would do, because I mean, their work is this super crazy detail, hyper realistic, or not necessarily realistic, but more sort of like comic book style art. And so they just had a ton of lines to do. And so they would put it in. So it's like a little building. When I ink it, it'll look a little better, but for now it's fine. It's based off of I won't add that in. Maybe I'll add a little plant life up here though. Have it dangle off the side a little. I'm gonna finish doing this too. The background buildings before I let you guys go. If you hear anything in the background, that's my laundry being done. just to fill this in. The other thing that I do, which if you follow me and you watch me do these, I never finish. So I got 2 buildings left to do. I don't finish my pages. That isn't the end. The end of the day for me is not finishing a page. I have more work to do on this page. I have, like I said, these 2 buildings, and maybe there's some detail in the sky, maybe something on the ground, a couple, maybe like a big puddle there. It's kind of neat. Just rough that in now, but because I'm thinking about it. But I don't finish pages because that way when I sit down and draw, I will have something to do. I won't be a blank page. I'll be like, I know I got to finish these buildings. And I will be thinking about finishing those buildings for a while. And it'll even drive me a little crazy. And it'll be like on my mind the entire time. And then I'll be excited to come back and draw those 2 buildings. So when I started the stream, I was partway through a page. And I'm going to finish this one right now. And I've still got a few more details to add, but I'm going to do that on the next stream, which will be later this week, I think. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in the middle of the night for you guys, because right now it's almost the middle of the night for me. But I will be streaming again, and there's a link to Blue Orchid in the, check it out, that's great. You don't have to buy the comic book. If you want to, you can, that'd be great, but you don't have to. But maybe follow me on social media, and I will maybe start announcing some of my live streams, or if you follow me on YouTube here, you can follow my live streams too. I'll also post condensed versions of these drawings, some time lapses, that sort of thing. But thanks for watching. I'm gonna photograph my thing, and I can show you the one thing. I said I was gonna show you one thing before I leave. So when I finish a page, this is a new little tradition because a friend of mine got me this really cool thing. It's a little stamp with it's a Chinese stamp. It's my name in Chinese. A Chinese friend of mine got this for me, and I love it so much. So I put that in the bottom corner. That says the page is done. So, but after this, I'll photograph it so that way I can post it on social media. So thanks for you guys for watching. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll be back another time.